Hello and welcome to another episode of I Could Never Be here on the amazing Popcorn Talk Network. This is a special episode. This is episode number 50, which is incredible. It's such an incredible feeling to know that we've had 50 guests in. We've had 50 incredible stories, 50 inspirational stories, sharing with you that the people who you see as successful, that you see on your TV screens and movie screens, and you go to their concerts, that their lives growing up, not much different than yours. They are going through the same struggles. They're hitting the same walls. The only difference is that they continue to push through, and you can push through just as well. And our guest today, incredible. Her story as well. It was definitely a Hollywood discovery, but that was a long time ago. And since then, she's worked incredibly hard to stay on top of her game, and an incredible project coming out. But as always, start the episode with some advice for a better life. And today's advice for a better life is that everyone gets lucky. People who work hard just get lucky a little more often. And you're gonna see people in your life that it's like, how did they get, like, oh, they got lucky. Oh, they got lucky. And it's true. People do get lucky. But hard workers get lucky a lot more because they put themselves in the positions to get lucky. They put themselves in front of the right people, in front of the right situations, in the right atmospheres. And that is how you get quote unquote lucky, because luck, you know, it is maybe actual 5% luck and 95% you putting yourself in the right position. So again, you're going to see people who get lucky, but the people who work hard get lucky quite a few more times. So work hard and you'll get lucky a lot more if you want to know the secret to being lucky. Today's guest maybe has been a lucky a little bit, but certainly has been an incredibly hard worker. Again, such a Hollywood story. She was discovered in a grocery store, which is incredible. Starred in Wayne's World, starred in True Lies, so many other projects. Her latest project coming out later this year on Netflix, AJ and the Queen, looks incredible. We're going to talk with her about it here in just a few seconds. Please welcome Tia Carrere. Thank you.
Thanks for having me here on such a momentous occasion.
Such a moment. I feel like we needed some champagne or some cake. I feel like I let it down, but
I had some at home too.
You had some at home?
You forgot to call and tell me.
Yeah, I didn't have service.
Opportunity.
Didn't have service earlier today. It just didn't work out. But
popcorn and champagne, though, a little weird.
Popcorn and champagne. Yeah, it'll like a ritzy movie theater. I am so excited to be able to talk with you about your incredible career and with AJ and the Queen. Let's just get into that right away, because that is going to be an incredible project. And you say, I think you were just shooting it the other day too, right? And it comes out later this year?
Yeah, just a couple of days ago we wrapped, and it's with RuPaul, who the world will see as a wonderful actor.
Because people don't know him as an actor now.
Yes, with Drag Race and everything, he's great, he's funny, he's witty, he's quick. But as an actor, he's also heartbreaking and a great comedic presence, and just so charming. And Michael Patrick King, who created, he was a showrunner, producer of Sex and the City. Amazing Joni Marchenko, who did A Will and Grace, and just unbelievable cast of people on it. It's a great
Were you
show.
surprised about Ru's acting? I mean, were you thinking that it would be different than maybe what you saw on set?
Everybody assumes that it's a reality show, and I say, no, this is a real acting job. So when I first sat down for the read-through, I mean, there's maybe 20, 30 people at Warner Brothers, and you know, you're on your best game, and everybody's sitting, getting ready to read their parts in the script. And just the uproarious laughter and, you know, the heartbreak and everything in between. And I think it really opened people's eyes to what Ru can do.
And your character is Lady Danger, which what are we expecting from Lady Danger?
I know. Well, I can't say too much. Spoiler alert. But I play Lady Danger, and I am very dangerous. And Josh Segarra, a fine actor, and we're sort of like Michael Patrick King says, we're like Boris and Natasha.
Very nice.
Seen through the lens of a David Lynch film. It's sort of Lynchian Boris and Natasha. It's hilarious. It's crazy. It's absolute insanity. But it's
was it like when you were reading the script? I mean, I don't know how it normally is when you're getting the script. Was this like every page you were like, this is getting crazier and crazier, and like?
It was crazy to start with, but as subsequent, you know, there were 10 episodes, and it just evolves and devolves into madness. So I'm like, what am I doing in this script? Holy cow! So I was discovering it with everyone else.
Yeah, well, we're very excited. I think, that's later this year on Netflix, which,
Yes.
we will definitely be tuning in. And again, if you want to be able to find out maybe specific, I'm sure she's going to be talking about our social media at Tia Carrere on Instagram and on Twitter. And she's on Facebook. Check her out there. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at The Only MC. And certainly, again, we're grateful to be here on the Popcorn Talk Network. And that is at The Popcorn Talk on Instagram and on Twitter. And we're live here every single Monday. So tune in. And if you want to be able to listen maybe in your car on a long drive, you can tune in on podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, be able to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. We offer this content for free. We only just want to be able to inspire, and that's what it's all about. And you introduced me before the show to everybody's free to wear sunscreen, which is incredible. Go listen to that after. That is just such a positive message.
I don't even know how I got to know this song, but it's from Baz Luhrmann's film Romeo and Juliet, and it's just these inspirational statements, one after another, set to music, and it's in the framework of a commencement speech. But I think they're words to live by, you know.
Yeah, and it starts out by saying like, wear sunscreen. Like that is the one go-to, and everything else, how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
I think which is a great attitude, and certainly you look back on your career, which, I mean, is it wild to think, what are we, 27 years, Wayne's World?
26 years ago was Wayne's World.
26 years ago.
And I started acting, this year will be my 35th year.
Wow.
I shouldn't even say that out loud because then you're going to be dating me.
Oh, no. You look
everybody can
incredible. It looks
Google
like
it
it was like
anyway.
3.5 years ago. You look incredible.
Stop. Yeah.
Is that, I mean, 35 years? Do you take time every now and then to reflect on?
I was a fetus when I started. I was a fetal actress.
Do you take time to reflect and be like, well, this is what I've accomplished? I mean, sometimes, like, when you get into the swing of things, you're almost too busy and you don't appreciate where you are. You don't appreciate the things that you've done. Yeah,
I mean, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she very much checks me. And I think when I had her, I was able to, okay, let me reassess, where am I? And it's been this long that I've been doing stuff, but now I'm into being, you know, who I am and getting in touch with that as an individual. And, you know, I was living up in Topanga. We were living in Topanga up in the mountains. So you kind of, you know, unplug, and it's this whole different mindset up there. Yeah. And it was very helpful to really assess. And, you know, in our business, the thing is, everybody's so focused on achieving and climbing that they don't take the moment to check in and say, is this something I really want to do? Is this the direction I want to go? Or is this, you know, are the winds just taking me in a direction? You know, I think you really have to, that's why I have a hard time, it's scary for me to think about my daughter getting into the business. Because I think you have to be very strong and very clear to negotiate the treacherous waters that are Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, I've been taken down a few paths where I go, wait a minute, how did I end up here? I was aiming for that, and somebody just sort of said, well, this would be great, and look, well, let's go this way.
Yeah.
And it's very seductive that way, with money, with opportunity, you know, so.
Is your daughter wanting to get into the industry?
No,
or does she have
other
those...
people, no. She's a wise girl. And she actually, I did the 5th grade graduation video, and I was surprised. I said, okay, where do you see yourself in your life? What are your goals in your life? And she said, I'd like to be an animator for Disney. I'm like, yes.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm happy with that, honey.
Well, I know even your career, it's like you've done modeling, you've done singing, you've done acting, and you know, I want to get back of like, you were discovered
in a grocery store in Waikiki.
Grocery store.
Yep.
Like,
I was 17.
Like, what do you remember the day? I mean,
I remember as clear as a bell. I was there just after a photo shoot, so I had full makeup, and I was wearing a T-shirt and a bikini and a garland of flowers around my head. They call it a haku headband in Hawaii. And so I was walking through the grocery store like this, which is, you know, it's sort of like, oh yeah, you blend. You know, what are you doing there? You like dropped out of this, you know, photo shoot into a grocery store. But I was shopping, and a producer's mother and father approached me and said, darling, you're gorgeous. You should be in my son's movie. They're looking for the female lead. And I was like, what? I've never acted before. You know, I'd only sung before. And they said, well, the casting director did Karate Kid. Yeah, universal symbol for Karate Kid. So it was all on the up and up. I went in and I read the part. I just made pretend. I had no idea what I was doing, and I got the female lead in this film.
One of those like fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I had been singing in front of people. I had performed at the Waikiki Shell for, I don't know, thousands of people because there was a talent contest called Brown Bags to Stardom that my musical partner and I had performed in a few times, and so I wasn't shy. But acting, I had never done any acting.
Were you nervous being on set then, or was it just you're used to being in front of crowds?
I don't know if I was nervous. I thought it was a great adventure. When they told me I had the movie, I remember jumping up and down and screaming because I couldn't believe that I got this. I went in and read a part, and I'd never done it before, and I got the movie. So
was it ever a thought at that point of this is what I'm going to be doing for the next 35 years?
No, I did not. I always thought I was going to be a singer. I always thought that the pinnacle of my career would be singing, at the Hilton Hawaiian Village in Hawaii in the showroom. Don Ho. There's a new Ho in town. I'm just kidding. I don't know. The bubbles just got bigger. I don't know. I was thinking of catchphrases. I'm just kidding. Kidding.
I think I read your mom was a computer supervisor, your dad was a banker, and it's like it sounds like those are very like blue collar, like this jobs. Where did your creativity come from, or like wanting to do art in a form?
Well, my family get-togethers were always everybody had to get up and perform, dance the hula or sing, and uncles and aunties would play the ukulele and sing. So there was a lot of music.
It was always there, and it just was it encouraged as a career then, or just as a hobby?
Geez. Of course, there was never any thought that it could be an actual career, but. Fortunately, it did take me in that direction because my grades weren't good enough for I was a B+ student. I couldn't have gotten a scholarship, and my family didn't have money to send me to college. So it's a good thing this whole thing turned out the way it did.
It's just worked out just a little bit.
It worked out okay in the end.
Moving to the big city of LA, which I'm sure was just a learning experience in itself.
Yeah, it was very overwhelming. I thought Honolulu, Hawaii. Yeah, I come from the big city, the big island, and then you come here and go, Carthay Circle turns into Laurel Canyon on one side and Crescent Heights on the other. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where I am. I spent most of my time lost driving around Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think a lot of people still do, which is something coming here. Did you have a plan coming? And like when you in your first like several years in the industry, was it like I want to achieve? Now I'm in the industry, I want to be able to achieve this, or now that I'm in, I want to go in this direction. I mean, you said you still wanted to sing, and like where was the plan? Was there a plan?
Just work, and getting this movie was pretty amazing, and because I had a movie, I could get an agent. And because I had an agent, I then got on General Hospital. So, it's sort of like you work hard to get one bit of work, and then that puts you wind in your sails to get the next piece of work, and then that gets you to the next step. So, after about, I think it was the next year that I got General Hospital, and then I was, co-starring, guest starring on other shows until...
Yeah, that was a big, General Hospital, it's always been big, and it was big then, and to be able to get that just catapulted you.
And it made me money so I could continue working, and get into acting classes. I realized at that point I didn't know anything about acting, so I better get my butt in class. And it was like 10 to 12, 1 to 4, and 7 to 10 every day. Wow. I was in class as much as I could 5 days a week because, you paid a fee and it was unlimited classes. So why not take as many as you could? And
I've always wondered for like actors, acting classes, everyone who starts out is doing acting classes. As you progress in your career, are people still doing classes, or what? How do actors continue to evolve and to learn? Are you doing private classes, or is it just continued?
Yeah, I did do that, and then I studied with a couple of other people in New York and in LA, and then if you're working so much, you usually don't have time to study with them, but you'll have like private sessions with different coaches to work out pieces, and I don't know. And I've lately was doing some improv, which was really fun, just to loosen you up from thinking about stuff all the time, planning things.
Yeah. The huge thing is Wayne's World when it came out. It certainly was like another
Changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
General Hospital catapulted. Wayne's World certainly, you said, changed your life. What was their expectation of what that movie would? I mean, I'm sure you said changed your life. Did you expect it to change your life?
Nobody knew what Wayne's World was. I mean, it was I think the lowest budget film that Paramount did that year, so nobody knew.
Yeah, and it beat some huge
movies. It was the hugest movie that year.
Yeah,
and it was worldwide.
At that time, grossed $121 million, I think, just domestically, which I mean, huge in the early 90s.
I was going to say it was more because internationally we
was
traveled
even
to Germany
bigger, yeah.
and England and yeah.
But there was I mean, it was like, oh, we're releasing this movie, but you just start getting that success, and then you just keep building on it with the movie of it coming out, and you're like, oh, okay, this is bigger, this is getting bigger, people are loving this.
Yeah, and they're flying you all over the world, first class, and putting you up, and Versace's throwing clothes at you, and you're like, oh, this is cool.
Did you watch any of the?
Hold on for dear life.
Did you watch any of the SNL? Because that was based off like an SNL.
I never saw the skit on SNL. So I had one friend, and he said, "This is going to be huge." I don't know why. He just knew, but nobody knew what it was. But I remember when I read the script, Scaramouche, can you do the fandango? I'm like, oh my God, that's it,
Yeah, it's a queen. That actually, re-catapulted that song to the top of the chart. I mean, that just shows how big of an impact. And then, of course, had the sequel. There's been lots of talk in the past, 20-some years for movie number 3.
What are we going to come out? I mean,
what
I don't know.
Would you be on board?
Of course, I would be on board. They'd have to come and pull me out of, a tiki bar in Hawaii, probably, where I'm, singing there, and then they bring me back to rock and roll or something.
Well, how would you like your character? Because at the end of the 2, it stops where he just saves you from getting married. Mm-hmm. How would you like the story to continue? Where would you see that? I mean, because it.
I couldn't even. That's why it's so far out of the realm of my consciousness. I can't imagine where these older people at this point, if they're still living in a basement somewhere, it's just sad. It's just a sad story.
That does seem like the thing with Hollywood. I mean, do you see that?
Unless they're TV repairmen or something. I don't know. Maybe they work local news.
Ooh.
They got a local news show.
That seems to be like what Hollywood is doing now, though. It's taking like classics and bringing them back. Like you even met Karate.
Bill and Ted. They were talking about doing again, but I don't think they've started on that either.
But
it's kind of hard.
But if we do Wayne's World through, because I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, even Mike Myers was like, yeah, like I'd be open to doing it if we could do it again. So you're on board.
Yeah, I think they're on board. So let's figure it out. Bonnie and Terry Turner, wherever you are in this world. Where's the script?
What were people saying, your family, your friends, about your career at that point? I mean, did that, when it got so big, dramatically, how did your world change?
I was doing like double lunches and double dinners, and just I was tired all the time. I remember I was recording the soundtrack for Wayne's World, and I was in the studio with Michael McDonald and from the Doobie Brothers and Ted Templeman from Van Halen, producer. Mm-hmm. And I was like sleeping on the couch because I was so exhausted because I was just burning the candle at both ends and just holding on for dear life. But
did that fame come with like newfound pressure of like, oh, okay, every movie or project has to be a bigger one. Everyone has to be a bigger one. Was there pressure?
For me, the pressure was to just hold on and put one foot in front of the other. I mean, because when it just takes off like that, it's such a whirlwind that you just have to take a deep breath, not have a panic attack, and just like show up to work on time, do the same thing you did all along. I mean, it goes back to the work. Just do the work, all the rest of it, you don't know how it turns out,
A question in the chat, with you guys are watching live, work these questions in because I'd love to be able to ask them from someone who says, you've managed to model, sing, and act. Did managers ever try to put you in a box earlier in your career as it's hard to do it all?
Geez. I mean, one thing just naturally led into the other. I mean, modeling was a great way to make a living because, you know, how are you going to make that kind of money to pay for your, you know, acting lessons and your travel and all that kind of stuff? And it taught me how to do my makeup and how to pose in front of a camera and how to emote in front of the camera. So that helped a lot. And I got commercials, which is the next step. And then I was able to then, you know, be comfortable enough in the front of the camera to act, to cry on camera and all that stuff. So, and then I've always loved singing, and I started out singing. So to go back to doing the music with my childhood friend Daniel Ho, you know, that I won the Grammys for. We had always talked about doing music together, and let's just do a record of all your favorite songs from childhood. And it just sort of evolved, and, you know, I've always followed my gut.
Yeah, and they, like you said, they all intertwine, especially now in Hollywood. I mean, you can do everything. You shouldn't just be one almost. You should
That's sort of like the guy in the corner with like hey, you want to buy one of these, man? Oh, you don't want one of these here? I got another one of these. You want one of these?
Another question, we'll go to Neil in the chat, says, what are your favorite memories from True Lies, which was 94, right after Wayne's World 2?
Yeah, True Lies. Some of my best memories, or some of my most indelibly imprinted memories.
We'll go, I like the phrasing on that.
Well, it was a great big action movie, and I just remember being in, there's two. Both very traumatic. We were in the limousine. I was being taken hostage by Jamie Lee. We're supposed to take off in Key Biscayne. The helicopter's supposed to land on top of us. We jump in the car. The guy turns the key. The limo doesn't start. He's turning it. It's like, and the helicopter's going lower and lower. And Jamie Lee's like, ah! And we're like, oh my gosh. We get on the walkie. The car doesn't start. The car doesn't start. Don't land. Oh, it was crazy. And that was pretty scary. So that's probably why it's in my head. And the other was the torture scene with, this is Samir. He knows how to get information out of people. That scene was shot at Van Nuys Airport, about 3 miles from the Northridge earthquake, which happened the day before. And I had all the dialogue. That was crazy. So we're there getting ready to shoot the scene. I have, like, you know, I don't know, pages of dialogue, and the hangar starts going gung, 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 gung. Glass shattering, falling out of the windows on the ground. We're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Oh my.
And I'm just like, nobody's gonna remember. Nobody's gonna remember that the earthquake happened yesterday. They're just gonna think that you suck, Tia. So concentrate hard and do a good job.
That's like one of the biggest challenges, being in the zone.
Stressful situation. And they ultimately did have to evacuate us from the airport because there was a gas leak. So we were evacuated, but I had to. I mean, the cameraman said, we have to cut because the ground is moving. I can't get a focus. It was nuts.
Wow.
But it was one of those cases where you just have to deal with, you know, what you have to do. I was there to deliver these lines to the best of my ability, you know, whether the earth was moving, whether glass was falling, whether the cameraman had to cut because there was no focus.
Wow.
It was quite something.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was something else.
That's, I feel like, one of those things where, like, no matter what happens, you'll come across something that's challenging. You'll be like, well, I survived this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't as bad as the...
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as bad as the Northridge earthquake. Glass falling on our heads. No.
What was it like being a female star in the 90s in Hollywood?
Oh, geez. I mean, compared to what? It was sort of this grand ride that I was on that it's hard to have a frame of reference. What's a more interesting thing to me is finding the ebb and flow of a career.
Okay.
Because, you know, there's that old saying, the people that you meet on your way up are the people that you meet on your way down and everywhere in between. And for me, being in the business for 35 years, I've always thought, you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I mean, be kind to everyone because that's how you want to be treated. And that's always served me well because in this long career, you know, I was at the pinnacle in the biggest movie, in the biggest studio of it, you know, of the day. And then a long period of, fallow time of sort of like working steadily, but people don't really know these indie movies that I do or these series that I do, but to continue to do good work and meet people, and just the goodwill now coming back around with AJ and the Queen, with all the momentum and everyone being really excited about it. My representation, they're all like, this is the one, knock on wood, because you never know, but that's the thing for me is years later, when you walk into the hippest, coolest restaurants, when you walk into offices, to have them go, hey, I worked with you on such and such, and it's a positive experience. And I was working on stage next door to The Rookie. There was an actor there that I worked with on Jury Duty, the Pauly Shore movie, however many years ago, and the director was directing the episode. So like, we're here in sound stages next to each other, and there's goodwill, there's kindness, there's mutual respect, and that's a long life. To maintain that, to me, is success.
Is that a lesson you think a lot of people in Hollywood who are coming up sometimes learn the hard way with a bad interaction, that they burn a bridge and think, oh, I'm gonna get ahead though, it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I would say, whenever anybody asks me, I say, just be kind, do your best, be respectful. I mean, because that's the longevity. I know people that will walk into a place and just want to hide their head or avert their eyes because they know that they've screwed over half of the place,
Yeah.
And that's not a comfortable place to be within yourself and out in the world. So.
Yeah, and again, in a couple of years, you're gonna regret that. Because that person who you thought was a nobody is going to do something.
Is now a producer. I've seen so many people that were assistants to people that were, people dumped all over them and were rude to them, and now they're huge producers today. And that's not the reason you should do it, but look what happens. It comes back and bites you when you're not kind to someone because you think that they're not important.
How do you stay grounded? Do you have things for you that are like, this is something that I practice every week. This is something that I just keep in my life just to remind myself of, like, okay, you are human. This is your life that you're living.
Well, I'm a big believer in therapy. Some people, it's the church, it's therapy, it's yoga. I mean, however you get to that place. I like analysis. I love breaking things down. I have a very analytical mind, and as I was getting very successful and very overwhelmed, I had to sort of bring myself down and say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Checking in with myself and figuring out why it was so scary, why it was so overwhelming, and then just to have someone say to you, well, of course it's overwhelming. This is an overwhelming situation.
Yeah.
Of course it makes you feel crazy. This is a crazy situation that you're in. And it sort of takes that you can sort of relax and go, okay, I give myself permission to have moments where it's a little crazy. And then, allowing yourself sometimes unwinds all the knots in you. I mean, when you think about it, we're like a great big ball of rubber bands, all different colors and stuff. And sometimes you just have to take it apart and put it in its box and say, okay, that's where that comes from, that's where that comes from. And once you sort it out, you're like, it's all still there, but you know how to deal with it. And you're not all tangled up and jumbled up and confused.
And we talked before the show about, especially, back in the 80s and 90s, it was so like, everything was perfect. The studios, I think you said, tried to play that of like, oh, this is perfect. Oh, this person is perfect with the role.
Well, there was more control over the image because it was before TMZ, it was before phone cameras. I think that really changed the game, where we saw, warts and all behind the facade back then, and even before, the movie star era of, Marilyn Monroe's and stuff. Now we know all the stuff behind the facade wasn't so pretty and perfect. But when you control the image and the story that goes out, and they only go out with famous people, it all looks glossy and perfect. And
yeah, you only get the paparazzi photos at the parties. You don't get the paparazzi photos outside their house,
Yeah, now we have very little. I remember when the first time I was in the Philippines for a film festival, and I saw these phone cameras come up, and I thought, this is going to change the world when people just can carry a photo or a video machine in their hand, and there's no privacy anymore.
Did you change the way that you were acting in public then at that point, knowing that anything could be
It kind of coincided. I came back to the States, moved up to Topanga, had a child, really unplugged during a time where whenever I went into West Hollywood, there was always a camera there. When I was going to pick up a magazine or go to the grocery store, I was like, what is going on? This is a totally different game than I left. Because I left to live in Europe for about 3 years, Canada and Europe, because I was doing a series called Relic Hunter that's now on Amazon. I came back to a totally different game.
Did you enjoy getting away from that? Kind of going and living in a different country, being
I
able to
love
escape?
living in Canada. I still have a lot of great friends up there. I was in Paris, living in,
beautiful.
the Saint-Germain, which is the most beautiful part of Paris for me, shopping-wise anyway. And then, Spain and England, and it was great traveling on somebody else's dime.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was living in Merchant Ivory's apartment,
You mentioned, they had the huge high and it had the lull, and thankfully, again, with AJ and the Queen, we're so excited for that. The lull period, was that a transition for you that was difficult, of not having the
not identifying?
superstardom?
Yeah. It can mess with your mind. I can see. I actually thought about writing something about it because it's such a mind bender. Because especially you see all these kids that come up, they become hugely successful, and then they're dropped by Hollywood, and then they get into drugs and mental illness and whatever it is, because they're so identified with the image of them as stars, or people that go broke trying to maintain this facade that I'm better, I live a better life than everybody else. And it's okay just to live a normal life, and it's okay just to be you. You're still the kid that came from the wrong side of the tracks, that had pimples when you were 14, and all those insecurities that you had before. Just because you're rich and famous doesn't change any of that on the inside, and you have to work on that, because you're held up as more special than everyone, and then you're let down and you feel empty, and you're wondering, where do I belong now? Who am I now after this? And people get self-conscious and they hide away. I think it takes a lot of work and a lot of honesty to be able to come through that and not be identified with the image in show business, because it's a fickle mistress. It's
Very
a fickle mistress, and if that's all you have, then you're left empty and lost and destroyed.
Did you grow to appreciate the artwork in those indie films? Like you say, indie films that not a lot of people knew about, but like there's still the beauty of the craft and the beauty of the art.
Yeah, it's still the
those.
same. I mean, like, I love acting in front of the camera, comedy, drama, action. And the work is still the same. You show up, you know your lines, you hit your marks, you do the best you can, you make pretend. I mean, it's fun. It's playing what we do. But the outcome, whether the movie comes out on a streaming platform or in 1,000 theaters across the world, we don't have control over that. But we still have to do our best work no matter where people see us.
Well, and now especially it's becoming more and more of, even like AJ and the Queen is coming out on Netflix, which is now like that's where things are coming out. That's huge.
More people will see it because you
Yes.
can open up your phone or your iPad or your computer and watch it.
And someone had to be on the forefront of that, where 5 years ago it was like, oh, it's a Netflix thing, and it's like, no, like, if someone would have 5 years ago embraced that and been like, this is the future, I want to be able to,
Somebody
and
did.
they're now the person who at that point maybe people were looking down upon, but it's like now they're at the forefront.
Who's laughing now?
Yeah, exactly. How still do you approach every project? Do you have a thing of like, I get in this mindset when I'm getting in a character, or do you have a mindset that you approach every job, every
Every
work
job's
with?
different, whether you're working on this one, I had to be completely fearless, because I'm comfortable wearing certain clothes. I'm comfortable, approaching things a certain way. But this one was sort of completely destroying all that and putting it back together in this crazy, colorful, wacky, insane, process. And I'm not the same person that I was 26 years ago. And so it was liberating because I approached it completely differently. In Wayne's World, I was like, oh no, do I look cute in this dress? And wait, no, that one is too, I don't know, whatever it is. And I was nervous and a little insecure. And now I'm more like, I guess maybe after having a child, it makes you feel like a superwoman. I could do that. That's my high water mark. I can do anything.
Were you
I
challenged?
can do that without anesthesia. I can do anything.
Were you challenged? It sounds like you were like challenged almost like every day on the set of AJ and the Queen of like stepping, like you said, stepping out of a box. What was it about that, the role that you played?
What I love about the character Lady Danger, the part that Michael had written, is that she is absolutely fearless and fierce and doesn't censor herself in any way. And you know how in real life you're polite and you're sometimes bashful. There's none of that. So it was kind of liberating. That's why I like playing the villain a lot, because it's freeing. It's a freeing exercise.
Do you feel that you have things to prove in Hollywood? I mean, maybe when younger people come on the scene, it's like, oh, I feel like I got to prove that. I got to show. I got to puff out my chest and do that. Did you feel that ever? Do you feel that now? Like, I still feel like I have this to prove, or on a show that I can do this type of a character or role?
I think I've been fortunate enough to play many different types of roles, many different genres of film and television, and music as well. It's more about what fires me up and what I really want to show, what I'd like to share, with the world, writing-wise, acting-wise, singing-wise.
Yeah, what is it? What is still on the bucket list, or the list of things that
There's
you want to
so many
do?
things.
What do we got? Spill it.
Well, it's every day there's a different idea that comes up, and it's just getting it out into the world. It's singing a different kind of music, doing a jazzy sort of chill, modern day chanteuse kind of record. Acting wise, to do like a small, quirky little ladybird kind of movie. Filmmakers at home. Being in a one-room location film where you can just go through the gamut of emotions, like The Room that Brie Larson was in.
So good.
Seeing some of the movies that have come out of Sundance and Sex, Lies, and Videotape back in the day, South by Southwest that's going on right now. I wish I could have gone there to see what filmmakers are doing. I love new filmmakers with a fresh perspective in how to see the world and how to tell stories. That's what I'd like to do.
Is that something that you would encourage younger actresses to do as well? Of like, be open to those kind of projects instead of being like, oh, I want to be the next major superstar. Be like, explore, do these things, live your path, and learn in those areas?
I think a lot of people realize the value in doing indie movies now because of all the huge successes that have come out of South by Southwest and Sundance, Tribeca. But far be it from me to tell anybody how to run their career. If you're an actor, if you're an actress, you come up, you make your choice in who your representatives are. Choose well, because you're going to be taking their advice on what to do, but always, check your gut if it feels right for you. And that's all you can do, because nobody knows anything ever. Nobody knows anything ever. That's what I know about this business. From looking at Wayne's World, that nobody knew was going to be huge, maybe a handful of people. We hoped it would be huge, but nobody knew for sure. To Lilo and Stitch was the smallest movie that was over at Disney. Everybody thought it was going to be Treasure Planet. That was going to be the $200 million movie. Nope, it was Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah. Huge, and that started other movies in that genre and in that kind of animation as well, and that definitely kickstarted that whole genre and realm. Was there ever a thought of leaving the industry when you were in that lull? Was there ever a thought of not acting anymore?
No, I was saying before we started filming, this is the only thing I'm qualified to do. Even McDonald's turned me down. It's the only job I've ever had. Well, modeling, acting, and singing.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. It's not, hauling bricks. It's not, hard labor. It's fun what we are allowed to do. And I've, gained great success in it. Why would I want to walk away? I mean, I'm comfortable and I don't necessarily have to work, doing this anymore if I didn't want to, but it's fun and it's a gift. It's a gift what we get to do.
Yeah, every day is a new experience too. It's a new chance to be on set. It's a new role. It's a new, group of people to work with, a new character to play.
And even being here with you, getting to impart some of the bumps and knocks that I've gotten along the way, and hope that it helps somebody out there by telling them, it's okay.
Yep.
It's not all pretty and perfect, and it's not supposed to be. It's a journey.
We got a lot of people. I want to go to Samantha. Says, how many different languages do you speak? Because I know you right before the show you spoke a different language. How many different languages do you speak?
No, I only speak English. But
okay.
I did learn that dialogue in Cantonese for Wayne's World, which I learned like a song basically. But go, I don't even remember what it means, but this is how I had to memorize it. And French, I was living in Paris during my series, and so and I studied French in high school, so there's that. But I only speak English. I speak American.
What is your definition of success?
My definition of success is to be grateful and joyful going through your life and doing what you do because you want to.
And you like that the sunscreen, like you only get one life. Here's how you live it. In 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, whatever, when
I'm 157 years old.
Well, when people look back on your career and your life and the things that you accomplished, what are 3 things that you want people to say? Or a couple things, 1 or 2 things, 3 things you want people to say of like, oh, Tia Carrere, oh man, she was blank. She was blank. If you want to be remembered, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, I don't know if I'll be even a blip on the windscreen of life in 100 years, but I just hope when people remember me, it will be that she was a good person, that she was kind, and that she raised her daughter well.
You have an amazing relationship with your daughter, and it's good. It's interesting.
She's 13. It's not amazing. It's hard sometimes, but it's awesome. It's the best, hardest job I've ever had.
Absolutely. Any final words of wisdom for the audience?
Jeez, remember to wear sunscreen.
There you go. Seriously, go check that out.
Check that song
and
out.
Then go check out, certainly later this year, AJ and the Queen.
AJ and the Queen. Watch this space.
Yeah. That I'm very much looking forward to, especially of what you're saying with your character, Lady Danger, and the things that you have to go through.
Oh my gosh. I just shake my head when I think about the things I do on the show.
Oh my goodness. Very excited. So that comes out on Netflix later this year. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of I Could Never Be here on the Popcorn Talk. Again, we're live every single Monday, sharing the stories of the people who you see on the screens and you're like, man, I wish I could be them, but that little voice in the back of your mind says, oh, I could never be, but you can. All you got to do is just stick it out. You got to be able to keep putting yourself out there, be able to keep taking the right risk, and they will pay off. And again, as our Advice for a Better Life says, everyone gets lucky, but those who work hard just get lucky a little more often. If you want to be able to follow Tia after the show, at Tia Carrere on Instagram and on Twitter, check her out on Facebook as well. You can follow me at The Only MC on Instagram and on Twitter. And of course, so grateful to be here on the Popcorn Talk Network, at the Popcorn Talk on Instagram, on Twitter. Thank you so much for 50 episodes of I Could Never Be. What a great one this was. Thank you so much, Tia, for coming in and being open and up. We'll see you guys next week.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.